Senator Cruz, welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hugh, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I just talked a half hour with Carly Fiorina. I'd like to ask you, is she ready to be president should you win the presidency and then get hit by a truck?
Well, I believe she is, and I'll tell you that was the most important consideration. You know, when you're running for president, I think the most serious and solemn decision you make is assessing who should be the vice presidential nominee, who's in the position to step in and lead the country and honor the promises that were made to the people and defend the Constitution and most importantly, be commander-in-chief and keep this country safe from the threats we face across the globe.
Walk us through, if you will, Senator Cruz, your decision-making, which has been criticized by some, applauded by others, and your timing on the Fiorina selection. Well,
sure. We began some time ago. I think any serious candidate for president has to be well into the process by now. We're less than 100 days away from the convention. We began with an extended list of just over 40 people that we compiled that were plausible candidates to consider for VP, and we spent some time assessing that list. We narrowed it to a smaller list of what was 17 candidates, and began vetting those candidates based on just the public records, and from there narrowed it to a smaller list of what was 5 candidates. And then at the end, I'll tell you that the process was really quite straightforward. I mean, what I was looking for most critically were 3 characteristics: knowledge, judgment, and character. Knowledge, I think Carly has in abundance. She has had an extraordinary business career. I mean, she began as a secretary and rose the corporate ladder to become the CEO of the largest technology company in the world and the first woman CEO of a Fortune 20 company in history. I wanted someone who understands how the economy works, who understands where jobs come from, that they don't come from government. You know, there are a lot of politicians, both Democrats and, sadly, on the Republican side, Donald Trump, who think that government is responsible for creating jobs, that Washington is the solution. I wanted someone who understands that the way you create jobs is taking the burden of Washington off of the private sector, off of small businesses. That jobs don't come from lobbyists in Washington currying favor. They come from reducing taxes, reducing regulations on small businesses. And also knowledge of the world, knowledge and understanding of the threats facing the world. I think Carly has that in abundance.
Senator Cruz, Donald Trump will have to name a vice presidential running mate before the convention. Do you believe that Carly Fiorina and that yet-to-be-named running mate ought to debate before the first ballot is taken?
Look, I think that would be very appropriate. But, Donald himself is not willing to debate. It's now been 49 days since the last Republican debate. This is unprecedented. And 49 days, the Democrats have debated. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders have shown enough respect to the voters to stand in front of them and to answer questions. And indeed, the Democrats are planning a second debate, and yet Donald cannot defend his positions. He was fine when there were 10 candidates on stage, because that was enough air cover that he could stand there and just spout off and do a reality show. But this is now effectively a 2-person debate, and Indiana is voting on Tuesday. I think the people of Indiana deserve to see a debate, and in particular on foreign policy. Hugh, you spend a lot of time on foreign policy, on national security. Donald gave a speech this week that number one, I think was written by Washington lobbyists. I'm not sure Donald knew anything that was in it. But number two, even what he expressed, I think his foreign policy is profoundly naive and dangerous. And we ought to have a debate getting into foreign policy, explaining why he thinks America should withdraw from NATO, why he thinks that's a good idea, explaining why he thinks America should reduce our aid to Israel, as he's called for, and make Israel pay for it big time, explaining why he agrees with Hillary Clinton that we should leave the Iran nuclear deal in place and just enforce it vigorously. I mean, that's such a profoundly naive view. We need to have a debate on that. But, I will say, Hugh, you asked about Donald's vice presidential nominee. If you look to the records, I actually think if Hillary were to name a vice presidential nominee, Donald Trump would be an awfully good candidate, because they agree on issue after issue, whether it's Israel, whether it's Iran, whether it's taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood, whether it's allowing grown men to go into little girls' bathrooms. Donald and Hillary agree over and over again. But, yesterday we saw another very good choice for Donald Trump, which would be John Boehner. Yesterday John Boehner went out of his way to say some terribly kind things about me, calling me Lucifer in the flesh, which I'll give him credit for imagery. And at the same time to praise Trump, saying Trump was his texting buddy, his golfing buddy. And, Hillary and John Boehner and Donald Trump, they are Washington. They are the system. So maybe the ticket we're going to look at is Trump-Boehner. Here's the Washington establishment on steroids.
Senator Cruz, I found those comments by the former speaker to be despicable, and I said so. Carly Fiorina agreed with me. I do, though, wonder, what is the root of that bitterness? He directs his criticism at you and the Freedom Caucus, not at the President of the United States, not at Nancy Pelosi, but at conservatives elected to do what you did.
It's because the big government Washington establishment, it's one party. It's not two. It is not. That's why he went. The people he praised in his interview, he praised Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Donald and Hillary are flip sides of the same coin. It's the big government Washington establishment that had been breaking their promise for decades. And, look, the interesting thing about Boehner's comments is I don't know the man. I've met him, 2-3 times in my life. If I've said 50 words to him in my entire life, I would be astonished. And all of them have been, just empty pleasantries. So it's not based on any interactions he and I have ever had, because I don't know the man. Unlike Donald, who's texting buddies with him, I don't have John Boehner's cell phone, and I'm not particularly interested in having the number. Now, what he's mad at is not anything I've ever said to him, because I've never had the opportunity to say anything to him. What he's mad at is that in my time in the Senate, every day I've tried to honor the commitments I made to the people who elected me. I promised the people who elected me, if I'm elected, I will fight to repeal Obamacare. I'll fight to stop the debt that's bankrupting our kids and grandkids, and I will fight to stop amnesty with all my heart. I did exactly that, and the reason Boehner's angry is that when I honored the commitments that I made to the voters, that a lot of House conservatives, the Freedom Caucus, they stood up and did the same thing. And Boehner's angry at the people. He's angry at being held accountable. Look, he lost his job as Speaker because conservatives rose up and said, stop selling us down the river. Stop agreeing with Barack Obama and giving in to everything. Fight on something. And so Boehner's rage is really a rage directed at the people and at being held accountable by the people. And so when he called me Lucifer, he's really calling the American people that because he didn't like the accountability. And it cost him his job.
Senator, yesterday Ross Douthat in the New York Times wrote a very interesting column. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yesterday, but he points out 300 million Americans, 125 million will vote. Donald Trump has won about 10 million votes. I'm not sure what your vote total is. He's won more votes than you. Nevertheless, Douthat argues that in this primary electorate, the Trump support seems unwilling to accept evidence that Donald Trump cannot win in the fall, that they reject that evidence as biased, that he will put New York and Michigan into play. In fact, Corey Lewandowski yesterday said he would win Massachusetts. Others say Pennsylvania. What do you make about those arguments, and what do you make about Douthat's assumption regarding their unwillingness to deal with what the media puts out as facts?
Well, look, I didn't read that particular column, but I can tell you on the merits that the Trump campaign operates in a fact-free environment. They're utterly divorced from reality. The numbers are clear. If Trump is the nominee, Hillary wins, and she wins by double digits. He gets obliterated. Donald Trump right now is losing the state of Utah. Utah, as you know, may well be the reddest state in the union. If a Republican cannot carry the most conservative state in the union, we're looking at a Walter Mondale level blowout. I will note in contrast, if I'm the nominee, we win. We carry key swing states. We carry independents. Right now, I'm beating Hillary Clinton with young people by double digits. But let me tell you the even more broad point than just electability. It is stunning how many issues Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton agree on. If you're a social conservative, it should bother you that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both agree on taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood, and both of them think Planned Parenthood is wonderful. That's their word. It should bother you that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both agreed with Bill Clinton on banning many of the most popular firearms in America. As president, I'm going to defend the Second Amendment, not seek to ban guns.
Senator Cruz, John Dickerson on this program earlier today, and you'll be on with him on Face the Nation this weekend. I assume you'll do all the Sunday shows. Said the Carly Fiorina choice might be a good vice presidential choice, but your timing was off. You missed the opportunity to give delegates at the convention a permission moment to switch their support from Trump to Cruz. What do you make of that argument?
Well, listen, the timing is certainly unusual, but this is an unusual election year. I mean, typically people wait to the convention after they're the nominee to announce their vice presidential pick. In this year, I thought it was important to, number one, to unite the party. Our party is deeply fractured, and I think Carly is an incredible leader and an asset in uniting the party and bringing people together. We've got to unite. Number one, to win the nomination, but number two, to win the general, which is critical. We can't keep doing what we're doing. But secondly, I thought the people deserved a clear choice. If we end up in November giving the people a choice between two rich New York big government liberals, both of whom support Planned Parenthood, neither one of which supports Israel, both of which want to keep the Iranian nuclear deal in place, both of which support raising taxes, the Obamacare individual mandate, and allowing those who are illegal aliens to become U.S. citizens, although Donald would fly them back to their home country first, but then he says they can come back in as citizens. If we nominate two Washington insiders like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I think the Republican Party will have failed the American people badly by not giving them any meaningful choice whatsoever. Either way, the country continues on the path it is in. We're crushed in debt, don't have economic growth, and radical Islamic terrorism will continue to rise.
Last question,
and I
Senator.
want to provide a clear contrast between Carly and me on the one side, running a positive, optimistic, forward-looking conservative campaign based on real policy solutions to the problems facing this country, versus Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the other side, who are big government liberals, who are Washington insiders, both of whom have gotten rich buying and selling influence in Washington. I want to get Washington out of our lives, not keep growing it to make Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton richer than they are today.
Last question, Senator Cruz, and we only have a minute. You know the constitutional argument against states requiring delegates be bound, that they ought not to be interfering with the private associational aspects of a constitution. Do you oppose rules changes in the rules that govern the convention in 2012 aimed to remedy that or other issues?
Look, I think we have rules in place. We need to honor the rules and follow the democratic process. I will note that, this past week, Donald had a good week. He won New York, and then the states adjoining New York, he won at home. But prior to that, for 3 weeks in a row, I won 5 states in a row with big landslides: Utah, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Colorado, Wyoming.
But Senator, we're out of time.
People voted.
If the Rules Committee wants to change the rules, would you stand in their way?
I don't think we should be changing the rules, but let me encourage your listeners, go to cruzcarly.com, cruzcarly.com, and if you're in Indiana, join us at a rally or town hall. We'd love to see you.